In the last session, we discussed about alter command. So using alter command, we altered the table. Okay. So using alter table command, we could add new column, we could drop existing column name. Similarly, we could add constraint. Okay, we could even drop the constraint. We have done those using alter table command. That was yesterday or in our previous session. Fine. So today further we are going to look into the select command. We are going to explore what we can do with select command. At the same time, with insert and update also we work today. So in the DDL we have three commands, very important commands. The first one is create, the next one is alter, and the last one is drop. So using create command, we can create various database objects. Using alter command, we can alter the table or alter the database objects. Similarly, using drop, we can remove totally the object from the database. So first of all, let us explore how drop works. For that purpose, I create a temporary table so that I first create followed by I drop it. So our database was first DB the other day we created. In the first DB, we created a table called as DDL user. To see the structure of DDL user, by using GUI, you can expand like this, and what columns are in this you can find. You can see the columns here: user ID, username, DOB, gender, password, DOJ. So prior to yesterday, we had one more column called descript that we dropped. Using alter table command, we dropped the column. A column was dropped. Okay, now it's containing user ID, username, DOB, gender, password, and DOJ. See, for DOJ, we added a constraint, a check constraint we had for the DOJ as well as for DOB. Okay, so DOJ is going to be taking, suppose you don't enter DOJ, in such cases it's going to take current date and time. Further, we define a default constraint. Let us expand first of all keys. We have one key called as user ID, its primary key. Now expand here constraints. We have these constraints on the given table. The first one is DOJ, date of joining, then gender, then user DOB, okay, CHK, the check constraints, and here for gender we put default value M when we forget to enter a value for the gender. Similarly, for date of joining, if we don't enter data, automatically it takes the default value, that is going to be current date and time. We can get current date and time using get date. We have a predefined function called get date. With that we can get it. Even we can use current timestamp, that also we can use. Okay, so but here we use get date. Get date is not actually on ANSI compliant, whereas current current timestamp is going to be ANSI compliant. Okay, that means it's going to work with different databases. Get date is going to work only with the SQL Server database, that works with TSQL. Now first of all, let me open here the table database. For that we use command, then use first DB. We put like this. Use first DB, then select, after that execute. Now you can see here the database name first DB. Okay, so first DB is opened. Now in this I want to see the structure using command here. Using SQL command, I would like to see the structure of the table TDL user. So we don't have any equivalent structure in the TSQL. we don't have equivalent command for describing structure. In Oracle we use DESC, describe. With the help of that we can see structure. But here we need to invoke a procedure. Using that we find the structure of the given table. So for that we use exec. This is execute command. Execute. We need to execute a procedure. For procedure execution we use it. Here we write sp underscore. Then here we put the name as help. Then here we give the table name. Table name in single quote we should give. All the strings we need to specify in single quotes. The table name is DDL user. Close it. After that when you execute this, it shows the structure. You can see in the bottom the structure. User ID, username, DOB, gender, password, DOJ. Okay, then here collation. For text we have collation. This is what case insensitive. If you want to search username, whenever you enter uppercase or lowercase here for username, it cannot be mattering there. It does not mind between uppercase and lowercase. So this is here case insensitive. It is called as collation. You can even use case sensitive collation. So when you design database at the time, normally you can specify the case sensitivity. Okay, so collation you can use at the time. And here further when you see, you have here a primary key, a check constraint. Okay, similarly default constraint. All these are defined here. You can see the definition for check constraint for chkdoj. So this is date of joining for which we have a check constraint. So the user who is joining should have minimum 18 years of age, and whatever date of whatever date we enter, it must be less than or equal to say current date and time. Less than or equal to current date and time. So like that we define the constraint. So here the age should be minimum 18 years. So less than 18 years user joining is not accepted there. Okay. So another check constraint is chk gender. Whenever we enter gender, either we need to either uppercase or lowercase, or you can enter uppercase f or lowercase f, because either M or F you need to enter. Other than M and F you try to enter, it is not acceptable there. That will not be accepted. Okay, so like that we use M or F. We have to use here either M or F, but you cannot use other things. If you try to enter some ABC or 0, something like that, it does not accept there. Like that we are validating data. So data validation is done at the table level. So whenever developers are developing database table like this, they should provide validation like this. Okay. So application developers, they also try to restrict data. They also try to validate data whenever they take data as input from the forms using user interface. End users, they enter data. That data normally goes into database table. Okay, so from your application it gets connected to database, then the database it can be getting entered. Here since you are a developer, for you have access to SSMS. SQL Server Management Studio is accessible to you. Using that you are entering, you are actually manipulating the database. But for end users it's not possible. They can't be like this. Through some application only they should access database. Whatever database you may take, not only with the SQL Server, it can be with MySQL or say PostgreSQL or Oracle, whatever database it may be, you need to get connected with that using some kind of interface. So either Windows Forms or web forms, okay, or it may be a mobile application using which you get connected to database. Okay, so for every user we cannot give interface like this. SSMS for every user we cannot give. So using normal some interfaces we can do it. But sometimes what happens, so certain data you need to initialize, some initial data you need to add. So in such cases you may go with bulk insertion of data. So when you try to insert bulk data, at the time you may add some improper data. Such data should be filtered. So for that we can use here check constraint. So using check constraint, such data can be suppressed. So such data will be rejected by the SQL server. It is not going to accept such data. So that way you can be using validations with the help of the check constraint. Okay. So similarly, we have seen what is the default constraint and what is the primary key constraint. So far we haven't touched anything about the foreign key. We are going to do about that. Okay, but here today I want to show you the other commands, like how to use the drop command for dropping a table. So for that purpose I create here some table. I am going to create a new table here. So let me create a table, DDL sample, put like this. Followed by here I want to generate some table with it's going to contain only two columns. One is what ID, other one is going to be some message. ID and message I want to put. So therefore here I put ID, then this is int, it's integer data. This can be integer. Followed by here now I want to declare this as primary key, where I would like to create primary key not at the column level. Okay, in yesterday's table definition we were declaring primary key at the column level, but this time I want to define a primary key at the table level, not at the column level. I want to declare at the table level. So first one is here ID, int, and this should be getting entered automatically for us. The number should be getting entered automatically. ID should be auto generated. So user is not going to enter anything for the ID. ID must be auto generated. Suppose you want to generate automatically. Okay, so in such cases, from where to start? There should be some seed value. After that there should be some incrementation. So we need to specify here the seed value and by how much every time you would like to increment. So therefore here take identity. This is a keyword. Using this you can mark it, identity. Followed by here you give a seed value. I want to start from 10. Okay, after that, or with 100 I want to start it. After that I want to increment by 1. Like this I take ID, int, identity 100 comma 1. I keep like this. Then so here I am declaring ID as identity element. Identity meaning is here it can be generating the numbers automatically for us. We don't enter. Even if you enter, it does not accept. So therefore here ID is going to be identity element. So automatically it's going to enter data. 100 is the starting number. Subsequent values are going to be 101, 102, 103. So this way it gets entered. So this is called as here automatic generation of number. So it is identity element. ID, int, type of data is going to be int, then identity we write, seed value is 100, then we increment it by 1. Every time we are going to increment it by 1. So 100, 101, 102, 103, like that we are going to take data. After that here we write this way, we are going to add one more column called as message. I just want to put some message here. I would like to add a message here. So for that I declare a column as message here. So therefore you put MSG. So message seems to be a keyword. Keyword is nothing but reserved word. So TSQL is like other programming languages. So the programming language contain tokens. So with the help of tokens we here we are going to define the statements. We are going to write statements using tokens. There are 4 types of tokens. One is keyword, second one is identifier, third one is going to be operator, and fourth one is going to be separator. Like that we use. So create table. Create is a keyword, table is a keyword here. That's why they are getting highlighted in the blue color here. DDL sample is identifier. We invented that. We created that. So therefore DDL sample is going to be here a identifier. And again ID is going to be identifier. ID is some uniquely we can identify with the help of that. So ID, this is identification, that is, then followed by here we have a keyword int. First column name followed by type of data, then followed by other attributes. So we keep here identity 100 comma 1. So identity meaning is here what you are making ID as a column for which the numbers can be generated automatically. So we start with 100, subsequent values are going to be 101, 102, 103 like that. Okay. So here at the column level, I'm going to declare one more column called as MSG. So MSG is going to be here some messages. So I declare this as varchar followed by some 100 I put. So like this I made here just two columns. I am going to make just two columns here. Identity 100 comma 1, then MSG. So MSG is going to be here a primary key. Here 100 and 1 are called as literals, they can be constant values. Okay, and here you use parentheses. These are nothing but separators, and parentheses are made for actually grouping together things. You can group them together. Then MSG is what again? MSG is the identifier, or it is the name of the column. Okay, so like this we created here. We are going to create like this. Then followed by here we try to declare the here primary key. Now I want to declare a primary key at the table level. Now here in this, before I go with primary key, I want to put one more column in this. The column name is going to be, say I enter a column name is here, DT MSG sent. On what date exactly the message is sent? For that I am using it. This is here date time. Okay, this is going to be date and time. Like this we take it. Date time we are going to use. Okay, so date time we are going to be using in this. So here I want to put one constraint also for that, but here if you forget that, automatically it should take a default value. Therefore put like this default, then write here inside this get date. Like this you write. Next step is creating a primary key, but primary key this time is going to contain more than one column in that. You can have only one primary key per table, but in the primary key there can be more than one column also. I want to make ID and message based on that a primary key. So together it becomes now a primary key. They are going to be part of the primary key, both ID and MSG. Okay, so based on that we need to make here a primary key. That means what? For the same ID you cannot have same message. So ID and message together should not be getting duplicated in the rows. Okay, suppose you have 1, you have message. You have 2, you have message. So message can be same, but ID should be 1, 2, like that. So this way you can enter here some messages. So create table, DDL sample, ID, int, identity 100 comma 1, MSG, varchar of 100, DT, MSG sent, date time, default get date we have taken. Okay, so next step is what? We need to make a primary key. To declare a primary key at the table level, we need to use constraint keyword, then followed by you should give explicit primary key name. So when you create at the column level, we need not give any primary key, simply you can write there primary key, automatically a name is given for it by the SQL server. So SQL server is going to give a name for it automatically. But here what happens? Here when you declare at the table level, you have to specify the name of the constraint. So let me put here the name of the constraint. Constraint. So here the constraint name I should put. Okay, some name I should put. Normally prefixes we use. For primary key we put it as PK. Okay, for foreign key we put FK. If it is check constraint, CK we put. In the case of unique, UQ we put as constraint. So in the case of default we can put DF. So like this we can use some constraint prefixes. So when user is going through the table, they can easily understand with them. If you put PK, it means primary key. It is not compulsory, but it's a convention. So if you follow conventions, readability improves. So using PK, people can think it as primary key. Similarly, when you put FK, it's going to be foreign key. When you specify UQ, it's going to be unique key. Similarly, if you put CK, it's going to be check constraint. And when you use DF, it means default. So like that, you are sending clear messages. So readers can easily understand it. Now here write constraint followed by put the primary key name there, constraint name pk underscore, write it as msg id I put here. So together message and id I give such name for that, followed by I should write here now primary key. This is going to be primary key. Then here inside this I should specify both the columns. id I put here, then msg also I put. Like this I am going to make this one as a primary key. pk underscore msg id, this is called primary key. This contains two columns. The first one is id, second one is going to be message. So together we are making this as a primary key. We are declaring primary key at the table level. This is the primary key at the table level. We are making it at the table level. We are declaring here now the primary key. In yesterday's example, we have declared primary key at the column level. So when you declare primary key at the column level, you can use only one column. You cannot use more than one column as primary key in such cases. Okay, one more thing. You need not give any constraint name when you want to declare at column level. But here we are doing at the row level, table level. Because of that, we need to specify here in the explicit manner. pk msg id is going to be the name of the constraint, and type of constraint is about primary key. Now in this you have two different columns, one is id and msg. So together we are making here a primary key. Primary key together we made. Now id comma msg, like that we made it. Now followed by here I want to put a constraint for the dt msg sent. Whatever message is getting added, it should take the, suppose you have two messages, first message and second message. Okay, suppose for id1 you have some date, and for id2 when you have different date, so whatever date you are putting for id2 must be greater than the, when compared with the first one. So for first one, probably if you give like yesterday's date, something like say 12/5/2016, and for second message it should be something like say 13/5/2016, like that it should be. So subsequent rows, first row, second row, third row, fourth row. So fourth row should contain dt message value less than fifth row. So like that we should have. So therefore, depending on the value, if it is 1, it should be having smaller value for dt msg send. If it is 2, somewhat greater value. So like this it should be. So latest row, whatever last row or last added row is there, that should contain highest maximum value for date time. So like that for dt message you should have the maximum date time value. Like that it should be made. So for that I am going to write a constraint now. I am going to add a constraint. So for that, once again I use here constraint. So here put ck, it's nothing but check constraint followed by dt msg sent. Like this I put dt msg sent I am using. Then here write check constraint. Put check constraint. Now you need to take here. So whatever value you are taking, write it dt msg sent. Okay, dt msg sent here, this is what dt msg sent must be greater than what exactly, that is max of, here it is dt msg sent. Like this we need to put. This way we must be defining it. Okay, so like this I am going to define this. dt msg sent must be greater than max of dt msg sent. So this way I am going to define it. So in this manner I am trying to enter data. I am trying to create the table. So this is going to contain here two column definitions. So first one is three column definitions. First one is id, for which the data should be generated automatically. Second one is message, it can take up to 100 characters. After that we have in that one more column, one more bracket we need to use here. Okay, we have the dt msg sent, so which is date time, that should be taking current date and time when you don't specify that. Followed by, we have here a constraint tk msg id primary key that is going to contain two columns. One is id, other one is msg. Next we have a constraint ck dt msg sent check dt msg sent greater than max of dt msg sent. So like this we define the table here. Now select and execute this. So it's going to create a table for us. The table is called as DDL sample. So here we are going to create a primary key which is going to contain more than one column part of primary key. Then at the same time it's containing here, it's going to be it's getting generated at the table level. While defining the table, we are specifying constraint at the table level, not at column level. Since we are doing it at the table level, we need to explicitly give a name for the constraint. So we create this way. Now parse it. After that, try to create. So here this is going to be computed column. Therefore, it should not have here max value. You cannot use here max value. Then how we do it? So we need to now get the latest date only. We need to get actually latest date in this. Okay, we need to get latest date. Then how we enter that? That is going to be very important in this. Okay, check constraint. Here it can't accept here maximum value. It's not going to be accepting here maximum value. So therefore, here whenever you enter, it should be accepting date whatever you enter. So it should be greater than the last entered date time. It should be greater than last entered date time. So that way we have to now get it. Then how we do that? With check constraint probably it's not possible. So in such cases we can use triggers. Here using check constraint you cannot achieve it. So therefore we drop here check constraint. Then you can achieve this with the help of the trigger. So using trigger you can actually filter such things. So using trigger we can do that. Now here what is happening? We just created primary key. In this we created primary key. Then similarly, we made identity element. Okay, then dt msg sent for that default we have given. But here whenever you enter dt msg sent, okay, so you need to, it should accept the maximum value. Okay, the whatever value you enter here dt msg sent should be greater than this dt msg sent, it's going to take date time value. The date time value must be greater than the very last row inserted, last row's date time dt msg sent value. So it should be greater than very last row's dt msg sent value. So that way you should do. So using check constraint here you cannot do because you cannot get max there. So in such cases you can use triggers. So triggers are nothing but actions which get fired automatically. So we have here three types of triggers. Triggers are going to be, you have triggers here. So these are called as DML triggers. We use here the DML trigger. One is actually, that is when an insertion operation is taking place, or when updation is taking place, or deletion is taking place. So using that we can actually here write a trigger. So the trigger is going to be firing. Now to validate data we should use trigger. Okay, so here using check constraint, since we cannot do it, therefore we need to go with the trigger only. So when we discuss about triggers at the time we solve this problem. We are going to solve this problem when we do with the triggers. Okay, so here what is happening now? We are going to create a table called as DDL sample. It's containing here three columns. Now let us select this, then try to execute. Command successfully executed. Now when you refresh here, it's going to show the table TBL user, other one is TBL sample. TBL sample just now we created. Now I want to insert data into this table. I would like to insert data into this table. So insertion can be in the implicit mode or it can be in the explicit mode. when you enter data in the implicit mode, we need not specify the list of columns. So we write like insert into table followed by the values straight away. Okay, in whatever order we define table, in the same order we need to enter values. Suppose you are trying to insert data into the table in the implicit mode, so at that time you need not specify the list of columns. Straight away you need to enter values. Okay, so what we write in such cases? So this is going to be implicit mode. Here I put comments. You can add like this. You can use 2 hyphens. It's called as comment. Right here. Insert command to enter data in the implicit mode. In the implicit mode, I would like to enter data. So this is what exactly a command. This is called as a comment. In TSQL scripts, you can use the comments like this. You can use 2 hyphens followed by insert command to enter data in the implicit mode. Then I entered 2 hyphens at the end. Whatever command you want to put, you can start 2 hyphens and you can end with 2 hyphens. Like this is single line commenting. So these comments you can use within the SSMS. Even you can use in the SQL Server TSQL scripts. You may write a procedure, you may write a function, you may write trigger, there you can use. Or sometimes what you do, anonymous code block also you write. This is nothing but anonymous code block only. You may write some anonymous code block, even in that also you can put comments. Anonymous code block does not have any name. It's not going to be getting saved permanently. Only time being, we execute commands with the anonymous code block. So therefore this is for commenting. Now next thing is I put /star, then I write here this is for multi-line. Put like multi-line, then press enter key, comments. So this is going to be multi-line comment. The first one is what? A single line comment, and this is what exactly? A multi-line comment. Now let me enter here some data into the table using insert command using implicit mode. As I told just now, when you enter data in the implicit mode, you need not specify the names of the columns. So just write insert into table followed by values, then enter the data. Now here write insert into, the table is, what is the table name? Insert into, okay. The table name here it is DDL followed by sample, then here write values. Now specify here. See, ID is identity element, therefore you cannot enter that value. Okay, so if identity insertion is off, in such cases probably you can enter, but now you cannot actually enter anything. So here you cannot enter because identity element mode is on. So using identity element mode we enter data. Okay, so here what happens with this now? We have here, we need to enter values for the MSG and for DT MSG sent. You cannot have any value. You cannot have any value for ID. You cannot enter any value. Automatically that gets entered. For us,